remind me the director's name again. It's
Brady Corbet.
Ray DeCorbet. Yes,
Brady Corbet.
Brady. I'm sorry, Brady
Corbet.
DeCorbet. Oh, just
No,
Corbet. Just
Brady
Corbet.
Corbet. Yeah.
Okay, Brady Corbet.
You ought to be in pictures. You're wonderful to see. You ought to be in pictures. Oh, what a hit.
So, Steve, this is it. There is less than a week until the Oscars. We have now had all of the precursor awards and events. SAG was just this morning, our time. So I thought now's the time. We've got to do it.
Yes.
We've got to commit. We've got to actually lock in our final predictions. Now, these will be, we're not going to agree necessarily, but
Right,
we're
right.
going to have our individual final predictions in every single category
Every single
for
category.
the 97th Academy Awards taking place our time next Monday morning. So let's begin with Best Live Action Short Film. We've got The Man Who Could Not Remain Silent, Anuja, Leon, I'm Not a Robot, and The Last Ranger.
I'm just going out there. I always think if I'm an Academy voter and I haven't seen all of these either, which one do I just naturally gravitate to? And I went with I'm Not a Robot. I think we're living in an AI world. Everything's AI. And I think just I know this is a horrible way of picking a film,
Sure.
but like we said, I haven't seen any of these, so I'm going to go with that.
Yeah, no, it's a bit like whenever I go to the horse racing, which isn't often, and I know nothing about horse racing. I just go off on the name of the horses, and that's where I'll place my bet. A fun name for a horse. So I picked, um, in all three cases, just the one that kind of sounds like the kind of movie that would win. So I've gone with the man who could not remain silent. It just sounds
Okay.
like that kind of serious. I've got no idea what it's about. Sounds like a big, serious, weighty kind of short film.
That would have been my second choice. If you asked me to do it, yes, that has, for all the reasons you just mentioned, it's where I would go with that. Yeah.
Okay, so shot in the dark. Let's keep going.
Okay.
Okay, best documentary short. We've got I'm Ready Warden, Incident, The Only Girl in the Orchestra, Death by Numbers, and Instruments of a Beating Heart.
I've got I Am Ready, Warden, again, for the same reasons. I thought, oh, that looks interesting. I'd like to see that.
I assume that's about a prison or something. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. Maybe a capital punishment, like execution. I
Yeah,
have no
death
idea.
row thing. Yeah, maybe,
Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah.
I have for kind of the same reasons. I'm going with The Only Girl in the Orchestra.
Oh, okay.
It sounds a little bit more upbeat, even if it's got a
Yeah.
slightly ominous title.
Yeah.
But again, haven't seen any of them, no idea. So I'm going with The Only Girl in the Orchestra. So, right, and the third of these categories, Best Animated Short Film, Beautiful Men, Wander to Wonder, Yuck, In the Shadow of the Cypress, and Magic Candies.
I went with Beautiful Men. I think with the Academy voter, a lot of them are women, and knowing the Academy, probably a few men would like a movie about beautiful men. So
Okay.
I thought, well, that's an interesting title for a film, and just yeah, for the same reasons for the documentary short and the
Absolutely.
live action short.
I was immediately drawn to the title Yuck, but I'm going with Wander to Wonder, and
Okay.
I'm not entirely sure why. Well, after the shorts, I thought we'd go with like the other feature film category. So,
Mhm.
best international film.
International feature film.
Right. So let me read out the nominations first. We've
Mhm.
got I'm Still Here, Emilia Perez, The Seed of the Sacred Fig, Flow, and The Girl with the Needle.
I'm a huge fan of the Seed of the Sacred Fig. It was one of my favorite films of the year. The Girl with the Needle is a fantastic film. Depressed the hell out of me,
Yeah.
but it's a fantastic film. I enjoyed Perez. It was one of my top 10 films. But I'm going to go with I'm Still Here because it's nominated for the Best Picture category. It's not going to win Best Picture, but I think this is where it's going to take it home.
Yeah, I mean, with the exact same logic, I'm going to do the exact same thing. I'm Still Here got the Best Picture nomination and it's got a Best Actress nomination. So we're both going with I'm Still Here. Okay, so now we're on to Best Documentary Feature. Uh, we've got No Other Land, Sugarcane, Porcelain War, Black Box Diaries, and Soundtrack to a Coup d'etat.
Yeah, I'm embarrassed to say that this is another area where I've a bit of a blind spot. So I'm just going to guess here with No Other Land.
I'd really like to root for Black Box Diaries because I've met the woman who made
You
it
said
on,
yes,
yeah, a
yes.
couple of times now, and she's super cool and really nice. And also Soundtrack to a Coup d'etat is really good. I watched that just the other day. However, I'm not going to vote for the one I haven't seen, and so I'm going to go with No Other Land as well. All right, so best animated feature film. We have The Wild Robot, Flow, Inside Out 2, Wallace and Gromit: Vengeance Most Foul, and Memoir of a Snail.
I really liked The Wild Robot. It nearly made my top 10 for the year. I think I would have put it, I think it was hanging out there around 11 or 12. I was really surprised how much I enjoyed it. And so that's my pick.
To be honest, going through all of these, um, I think it's a fairly underwhelming year for
Mhm.
animated feature films. None of these really sort of jumped out at me. But I think from a technical point of view, I think The Wild Robot is the best one. And the
Mhm.
fact that it's also got nominations in sound and for its score suggests that the Academy like it.
Yeah.
And they this is obviously the category in which to award it something. So, yeah. So disappointingly, I don't think we've actually really disagreed yet, but
No, no, no.
we'll get
Other
there, I'm
than,
sure.
yeah, not at least not on the major ones so far. So,
So, yeah, I'm going with the Wild Robot as well.
okay.
Okay. So, best visual effects. We've got Dune Part 2, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, Wicked, Better Man, and Alien Romulus.
I love this category. I love these movies. But I think they're going to give it to Dune 2. I mean, visually, it was just a visually stunning film. And I think the Academy voters going to look at this and think, Dune 2 has been shut out of a lot of things.
Mm.
It gets nominations, but Villeneuve did not get a directorial nomination. And so I think this is one of the areas where the Academy is going to want to give Dune 2 something because it does deserve something. So I'm going to go with Dune 2.
Okay, interesting. I mean, I really did love the first one. I really got
Mhm.
swept up in its world building and in the
Yeah.
sense of scale and majesty of it all. The second one, slightly less so. I was quite surprised when some people, when it first came out and critics were like, oh, it's even better. I was like, I don't agree with
No.
that per se. This is, I agree, where I think it's definitely going to win an award,
Yeah.
even if this ends up being the only thing that it wins. I think this one is a pretty sure thing,
Yeah.
actually.
Agreed. Agreed.
Okay, so the next category is best sound. We have Wicked, Dune Part 2, A Complete Unknown, Amelia Perez, and The Wild Robot.
Again, I'm going to go with Dune Part Two. I'm not as sure in this category of sound as I am with the visuals.
So I think it's between Wicked and Dune Part 2, but I'm gonna go with Dune Part 2 just because I think that these are the only two categories, this and visual effects, where it can get
Yeah.
anything. And so I'm gonna root for it for these two. Okay, best song. So we have two songs from Emilia Perez, Mi Camino and El Mal. The Journey from the Six Triple Eight, Never Too Late from the documentary Elton John, Never Too Late, and Like a Bird from Sing Sing.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with I actually haven't seen the 688, but I've heard a lot about this song, and there seems to be a lot of love for it. This is a category where I'm not going into it with a lot of confidence. I'm kind of going more on what I've been hearing rather than my own personal gut. So, but I am gonna go with The Journey by the 688. We'll
Okay, well,
see.
this is our
We'll
first
see.
official disagreement then.
Yeah.
And I gotta
Yeah.
be honest, I'm quite comfortable with this one because I think El
Yeah.
Mal's been doing quite well. It seems to be one of a couple of categories where they still seem to be quite comfortable with Emilia Perez winning something.
Yeah.
Okay, best score. So here we have the Brutalist. First time we're talking about the Brutalist so far. The Brutalist, Conclave, The Wild Robot, Amelia Perez, and Wicked.
See, I was confused about Wicked being there. Like the score,
Right.
I'm thinking Wicked should almost be a given just because it's a, all those songs defying gravity and everything. But I went with the Brutalist. There was something about the score in the Brutalist and that music that was captivating to me.
I am also going with the Brutalist. I've seen the Brutalist three times now, uh, which is what almost an entire day. It's almost like 12 hours of my life, and I loved it. I got to finally sit on the big screen last week, and it's better. It's
Hmm.
transformative just because the sound is all around you, and those buildings just look so tall now. So
Yeah.
I'm probably showing my hand about a later nomination, but the score is great. Those the brass refrains and what have you, it really does sort of linger with you as well. So, yes. Okay, here we go. Best production design. So we have Nosferatu, Conclave, Dune Part 2, The Brutalist, and Wicked.
Again, I'm going to go with the Brutalist. It was
Right.
just such an amazing film of architecture and everything being explained and seen through the eyes of architecture and how architecture changes who we are as humans and the way the dialogue is interspersed with it's yeah, I think the Brutalist production values, yes, yes.
Yeah, I think that's a really good call. It's a movie about architecture and the way that they have represented, created, recreated all of the architecture on screen
Hmm.
just really works incredibly well, and just the period detail. I mean, that whole sequence at the marble quarry in Italy
Yeah.
is just fantastic. However, that said, I think the sheer in your face, eye popping artifice of Wicked is going to win out here.
Yeah.
Best makeup and hairstyling. So you've got Emilia Perez, Nosferatu, A Different Man, Wicked, and The Substance.
I'm going with the substance. To me, the makeup and this, just the very end scene with the splattered face, just it was the way makeup was so integral to this film, and the way that we engaged with it was fantastic. Yeah, this is one where I looked at this list and I just went the substance.
You're right. The movie doesn't work if the makeup doesn't work. you
No,
know
no.
from that sort of, I mean, the poster is, that great image of her back all like sort of
Mhm.
sewn
Yeah,
up,
yeah,
and just the way that she's slowly decaying, that moment when she pulls a full chicken, like
yeah,
roast
yeah,
chicken out of,
yeah,
and obviously builds to the end when it's just like a complete sort of Brian Yuzna-esque
yeah,
Cronenbergian bloodfest.
yeah,
I mean, sure, if this is winning anything,
yeah.
if there is any justice in the world, the substance is going to walk away with this. Okay, so moving on to best editing, we're into like the getting into some serious technical categories now. So for best editing, we have Wicked, Amelia Perez, The Brutalist, Anora. First time we've mentioned Anora, I think,
Hmm.
and Conclave.
I think because you love Anora so much, it comes across that I didn't like it. I did like it, and I like it so much, I'm going to give it film editing.
Okay, I think it's between Conclave and Anora, but it's a combination of, I think just the tide seems to be going with Conclave on this one. I think just
Okay.
the way it tells its story, it interweaves all of these
Mhm.
characters and all of these conversations, and it builds tension through situations which aren't inherently tense. It's just
Right.
it's just men talking in a
Yeah.
room kind of thing for a lot of the time.
That's a good point in that you basically have a film with no physicality in it. It's
Exactly.
it's and so you have to create a tension through your editing.
Yeah, you got to create pace and tension, and yeah, this kind of thing. And Conclave does that incredibly well. I know you're a huge
Yeah.
fan of the movie.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm kind of following the herd a little bit on this one, but I can see why it makes sense over something like Honora.
Yeah, I'm just thinking yeah, very well could go to Conclave, but I remember thinking there are some scenes in Honora, like even the
Mm,
establishment shots at the beginning when they're in the club and the way that whole scene plays out. There's some marvelous editing choices made in this film. The way things are sewn together and the how the tension is built and the interactions between the mafia thugs and making situations that could always be um, brutal and menacing and making them
mm.
comical as well. There's really brilliant editing in that film.
True, true.
Yeah.
And if it wins, then I have no problem with it winning,
Yeah.
really. But I'm going with Conclave
Yeah.
on this one. Okay, next one. Best costume design. We have A Complete Unknown, Gladiator 2. I think this is Gladiator two's only nomination.
Yeah.
Conclave, Nosferatu, and Wicked. It's one of the few categories that Emilia Perez is not nominated in that it could have been.
This one could go to Conclave. Just the sheer, I mean, for all the reasons you can imagine. You're in the Vatican. It just
Hmm.
robes are everywhere. But I think Wicked, man, there's some incredible costuming in Wicked. Remember the minute you see Jeff Goldblum as Oz, that's like a cool outfit. And so, yeah, I think in the end this is going to go to Wicked.
Yeah, this is the other one which I think Wicked is definitely going to get. The it's a lot of costume in the same way that it's a lot of production design, and
Yeah.
the hat is so important. It's
Hmm.
actually a plot point, isn't it? The black
Yeah.
sort of witch's hat, and so I think that that is not to be ignored. That there's actually a piece of costume that is a plot device, if you like, and all of that. There are whole sequences, lots of sort of dress up. The whole popular
Hmm.
song and dance routine is all to do with sort of dressing each other up and how they look and what have you. So I am going for Wicked with this one
Okay.
as well.
Yeah. Good, good.
Best cinematography. So we have Maria. I think it's the only nomination for Maria.
Hmm.
I think early doors this was considered something of a contender, and that Angelina Jolie might get nominated. And yeah,
Hmm.
because it's Pablo Larraín, same guy who did Spencer and Jackie, and
Hmm.
and some Chilean movies before that, which are really good. But no, so Maria, Amelia Perez, Dune Part Two, Nosferatu, and The Brutalist.
Uh, I'm going with the Brutalist again.
Yeah, for me, this is the easy one. As
Hmm.
far as the Brutalist is concerned, it's like if
Yeah.
it doesn't win Best Cinematography for that giant 70 millimeter Vista Vision
Yeah.
photography, it's then there is no justice in the world. I know that Dune, I think the first Dune won Best Cinematography. I'm pretty sure it
I
won
think
that, and
so. I think so.
it does look good, and Nosferatu looks good. But the Brutalist is on a whole other level with this. If you know what you're talking about when it comes to cinematography, just the way that it looks, the way it's lit, the way it's framed, the way the camera moves, from that opening sequence where the camera like follows him through the bowels of the ship, and you're not even sure where he is, if he is on his ship
Mm.
or where, if he's in a dungeon or wherever,
Yeah.
and then he comes out, and that iconic shot that they've used in all their marketing of like the Statue of Liberty upside down, and
Hmm.
great foreshadowing for the turbulent
Yeah. Yeah.
America that you will have, and it's such a good looking movie. It's so tactile the way that it's shot. It really gives you a sense of a feeling. It taps into your emotion. It's great. If it's winning anything at all, it's winning cinematography. Okay, so now we're getting into the screenplay categories. So let's do the quote unquote easy one first.
Okay.
So best adapted screenplay. We have Emilia Perez, Sing Sing, Nickel Boys. First time we've mentioned Nickel Boys. A Complete Unknown, and Conclave.
I'm going with Conclave on this one.
Yep, it's the smart choice. It's won this Oscar at
Yeah.
I think this award at every ceremony. I think.
Yeah.
Now we get to the one that is slightly more interesting. I think, which is best original screenplay. We have Anora, The Substance, A Real Pain, The Brutalist, and September 5. So I mean, straight out of the gate, I would not have a problem with whatever wins here.
Yeah, yeah,
I think they're all great movies, and
yeah. No, I like all the. I mean, yeah.
the screenplays are really strong. I mean, The Substance won Best Screenplay at Cannes when it debuted, but I don't necessarily know what that means because at Cannes you can only give like one prize to each film. So
Hmm.
I think so it you shouldn't put too much weight on what prize it wins specifically. They're just like, well, we
Hmm.
want it's either we want to give you something or we don't, and it's like, how can we make this work with the
Hmm.
half a dozen movies or whatever and the half a dozen prizes? So it did win Best Screenplay, but I think it's more sort of the idea of the movie and the themes of the movie rather than the screenplay itself. Um, I think. Anora seems to be the favorite, but in recent days, I think there has been a real surge for A Real Pain.
That's where I'm kind of going was with that. My thinking was this. I mean, I kind of wanted to vote for the substance on this. Like if I had to think who I think should win, I
Hmm.
actually think it should be the substance. But like you said, I'm not so sure this is where the Academy voters are going. There seems to be this growing love for a real pain. Not the kind of love we're going to give it Best Picture, but we
Hmm.
want to give it something because it's a good movie. This is the category where I think an Academy voter is going to say, you know what, let's give it to a real pain. And that's where I'm going to go with. Like you said, it could be a Nora. A Nora
Mm.
could easily win this one, but I'm going to kind of go out and just think, let's, because I haven't really, I think for the same reason, I haven't really voted for anything else a real pain or have given it a lot on this sheet. I want to give it something. This is where I'm going to give it. So I'm not unlike what I imagine Academy voter would be thinking.
Right, right. The one asterisk next to A Real Pain, not since the 50s has a movie won a screenplay Oscar that didn't get a Best Picture nomination. So there are some predictors who are looking at it
Right.
and going, well, I don't think it can win because it didn't get a Best Picture. I think it's a surprise that it didn't get a Best Picture nomination, actually.
Mhm.
And it must have been 11th or 12th on the list.
Right.
I was very shocked by that. I think that this is an opportunity for them to break with tradition.
Yeah.
I think it's written by Jesse Eisenberg, who also directed it. I mean, obviously, he is very well known in the industry. He's very well liked in the industry. This is a film that is, on the one hand, incredibly personal, but personal, it's accessible. It's personal to a lot of people. It's about something that I think a lot of people can respond to and relate to.
Mhm.
It's incredibly dialogue driven, but doesn't feel heavy. You know, much like Conclave, it's a movie about relationships and interactions between different people and how those are portrayed. I think it works as a kind of light, fast-moving comedy, but also
Mhm.
as a great sort of examination and rumination on all of these sort of great weighty themes of the Holocaust and its many far-reaching repercussions. I would love it to win. So now we get into the acting categories, which should be, I think, slightly easier. So best
Yeah.
supporting actor, arguably the easiest one to call of the night, I think.
Yeah.
We got Kieran Culkin, I'm not even going to bother saying the movies. I think we know what the movies are.
Yeah.
Kieran Culkin, Guy Pearce, Edward Norton, Yura Borisov, and Jeremy Strong.
Yeah. All fantastic performances.
Yeah,
I would love to see Edward Norton get something. I thought he did a wonderful job in A Complete Unknown. I felt about that movie the way you felt about that movie. It was good, but I thought he brought it up a notch. In fact, I preferred his Pete Seeger to Chalamet's Dylan. Um, but that's just me. But I think in the end, we know who's going to win this one. This is probably one of the surest bets of the whole evening. Kieran Culkin for
absolutely.
Real Pain. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, again, yeah, I think they're all good, all strong performances. Yura Borisov, that's a real breakout performance in
Yeah.
Anora.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
he's the character that kind of creeps up on you as
Yeah.
the movie goes along, and by the end, you're just like you're so with him. You know, you really
Yeah.
are.
he really is a wonderful character because it could have been just the stereotypical mafia thug who's
Yeah.
just all muscle, all and it's not long into that fight scene that you're starting to really like this guy. They can, and
Yeah.
yeah. Anyhow,
Yeah, I think he's wonderful.
but this is one of those cases. It's an honor just to be nominated.
I think it is, and now everybody knows his name, they know what he looks like, and he's going to get a lot of work, and that's great.
Yeah,
He'll be around.
yeah.
Okay, best supporting actress. We have Zoe Saldana, Ariana Grande, Isabella Rossellini, Felicity Jones, and Monica Barbaro.
Uh, well, Zoe Saltano winning the SAG award this morning.
Hmm.
I think there's just a lot of love for her. Isabella Rossellini, I'm surprised she got nominated for this. She was in Conclave such a small amount. I mean, she's in there for a few moments. I am left wondering. No, and this is not a dig at her. She's a wonderful actress, but I don't see where that was nominated in this category.
Yeah, I
Felicity
think
Jones was fantastic in The Brutalist. Ariana Grande, I think we're going to be seeing her more next year after Wicked 2. And Monica Barbaro, she was fantastic again.
right. Yeah.
Same way as Edward Norton raised Pete Seeger. Her Joan Baez was fantastic. And so, I mean, I would love her to win this, but in the end, I think it's going to be Zoe Saldana.
Yeah, I mean, I think Monica Barbaro, it's great. I mean, I think the nomination is the award here, definitely. She's still
Yeah.
young and still quite new. I mean, I've only seen her in Top Gun Maverick, other than this, I think. Um, but I did come out going, yeah, I mean, yes, I recognized her from that, and I was like, wow, and as Joan Baez, she was absolutely fantastic. So it's great to see her
Yeah.
nominated. May her success continue. Felicity Jones is just becoming one of those standards now. She's
Hmm.
just one of those British actresses that never puts a foot wrong, and so if she's in a decent project, she's going to get a nomination. Her day will come, but it's just not
Hmm.
yet. Isabella Rossellini, I think if she had one or two more kind of big moments in that movie,
Yeah, yeah,
she'd
yeah.
be winning everywhere.
Yes.
I think
Yeah.
she'd be nominated everywhere and she'd be winning. As it stands, she's not even getting nominated everywhere. She didn't get a nomination at SAG, and I think she's missed out a few other places. And I think people are just like, "Oh wow, she's still alive. She's still working." She's acting royalty. Roberta Rossellini and Ingrid Bergman's daughter, and she's been around forever. I
Hmm.
think that she might be benefiting even from a little bit of residual David Lynch love this
Oh,
season
right. Yeah.
because obviously, one of her big breaks was in Blue Velvet.
Of it, yeah.
So I wonder whether there's a little bit of that. Ariana Grande, I thought was absolutely fantastic in Wicked.
Yeah.
She was the best thing in Wicked. I didn't love Wicked, but I thought she was absolutely phenomenal. But I thought the same thing about Zoe Saldana. When I came out of Emilia Perez, I was like, that was a crazy movie, but Zoe Saldana was great.
She's the best thing in it, and
Hmm.
she's really the star of that film. I think when we talked about this, she
Yes.
really represents us, the audience member. We're like she's our POV.
So, best actor. We've got
And yeah.
We've got Adrian Brody, Timothy Chalamet, Ray Fiennes, Coleman Domingo, and Sebastian Stan. Notably for The Apprentice, not for A Different Man, where he won the Golden Globe.
This is one where I would have thought Adrian Brody was the sure thing, and but Chalamet winning in the SAGs this morning recalibrated some things in my mind. But I think in the end, I'm still going to go with Adrian Brody. His performance in that was just phenomenal. I would love for Ray Fiennes to win. I loved
Mm,
him in Conclave. I think the Academy would love to give him an Academy Award, and I could be shocked and surprised, and maybe in the end they do. But I just feeling, I just actually now I'm less sure about Adrian Brody. I'm thinking Timothy Chalamet may come out with a surprise win here because there's something about the Academy giving love to biopic
mm.
stars, and there's a lineage going. We got Ray, we've got Bohemian Rhapsody. I think did Joaquin Phoenix and Reese Witherspoon both did they win for Walk the Line?
They were both nominated.
Nominated,
She
yeah,
won, he didn't.
right. He didn't. Okay. Um, But I think in the end, it's still going to be Adrian Brody, and that's going to be my pick.
Right. I think the one thing, working against Adrian Brody at this stage is he's already won one.
Hmm.
And
It's a
to be
long
a
time
bit
ago.
mean,
It's a long time ago.
he still holds the record for the youngest ever Best Actor winner. He was 29 at the time. If Timothy Chalamet wins, he would beat him by a few months. He would actually beat Adrian Brody and beat his record as well and become the new youngest ever. And I think that's what one of the things working against Timothy Chalamet. Um, for Adrian Brody, I think the thing working against him is he's already got one, and a lot of the other stuff that he does isn't
Hmm.
always that good.
No.
He does a lot of kind of schlocky crap.
Yeah.
Uh, and although yeah, the pianist he was absolutely fantastic in it. Is this different enough from the pianist to give him another one for essentially doing something fairly similar? I'm being
Mhm.
obtuse and I'm being very narrow-minded to play devil's advocate.
Sure, sure.
I think he's great, but I think that that's what where the argument works against him. For Timothy Chalamet, is the argument against him is he's too young.
He's too young. He'll get it later. I mean,
He'll
he's got
have
a
his
huge
time.
career. Yeah,
Yeah,
he's got a
he'll
huge
have his
career in front of
time.
him.
And on the flip side of that is Ray Fiennes, I think, is in a perfect position to cause an upset. He is in his 60s now, I think. He's never
Hmm.
won. He should have won for Schindler's List, but he got beaten by Tommy Lee Jones. There's probably one or two
English
other
patient.
English Patient. He probably should have won as well, but he got beaten that year by Jeffrey Rush. Yeah, and those are performances that you look back on them and you're like, no, he probably should have. He really should have won
Hmm.
then. So if I think it's very, very, very unlikely. It would be a complete curveball. It would be like Olivia Colman winning for The Favourite a few years ago.
Hmm.
Everyone thought Glenn Close is going to do it, and if she doesn't, then Lady Gaga is going to do it, and that's going to be crazy. And then Olivia Colman shot straight up through the middle. She hadn't won anything else, I don't think, all season, and she kind of won it. So if Ray Fiennes did that, it would be very much like that.
Hmm.
But I think in after the shock of a different name being read out wore off, I think people would sit back and be like, you know what? Actually, yeah, that makes sense. He's
Yeah.
great in the movie. He's wrangling everybody else. He's playing off a whole load of different people. He's long overdue, and it's a really strong performance in a really strong movie. I think within 30 seconds of his name being read out, everybody be like, actually, that's pretty cool. That's great.
Hmm.
He
Yeah.
deserves
Yeah.
it. I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah.
I do think it's going to be Adrian Brody. I don't think Timothy Chalamet's upset today at SAG is enough because Chalamet hasn't won anything up to this point. Coming in and just getting SAG, I don't think it's enough, particularly because Oscar voting already closed. Oscar voting closed before the SAG was announced, so he doesn't even his win doesn't even have the opportunity to like sway opinion. Of course, some of the people in SAG are also in the
Yeah.
Academy, and so there is obviously some love. But I think it's probably very, very close between those two, and I don't think I think that one win is not enough. It's not enough.
Okay. Okay. All right.
So, best actress, which I think has been the real roller coaster, or back and forth at least all season. So
Hmm.
we have Carla Sofia Gascon for Amelia Perez, Cynthia Erivo for Wicked, Fernanda Torres for I'm Still Here, Mikey Madison for Honora, or Demi Moore for The Substance.
Yeah, I think Fernando Torres is the classic. It's an honor just to be nominated here. Carla Sofia Gascon, I think for the reasons mentioned, there's just too much. There's a lot of negativity there, and so it's a little bit radioactive. Cynthia Erivo, fantastic performance. And I think we'll see her probably nominated again next year for Wicked too. I really think this is a battle between Mickey Madison and Demi Moore. And I rather suspect that you're going to go with Mickey Madison and and be happy if Demi Moore wins. Is it Mikey Madison or Mickey Madison?
Mikey.
Mickey. It's Mikey, sorry, Mikey
Yeah.
Madison. Um, but I'm going to go the other way. I think Demi Moore is going to take this.
Okay, I agree with you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And I think it is, in this case, it's SAG that sealed it. For me,
Okay.
they had been, Demi Moore had been like winning, 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 winning. And then Mikey Madison took BAFTA. And I think that really shocked everybody because that was the first kind of industry award. What
Mhm.
everything that Demi Moore had been winning up until that point had been Golden Globe, it's voted for by critics, Critics' Choice, obviously voted for by critics, and then other critics' prizes. And people sort of stopped in their tracks and went, "Oh no, of course, of course, the Oscars never go into a horror movie performance. We should have learned
Mhm.
this a long time ago." Uh, BAFTA is industry. It's going to Mikey Madison. She did also win Independent Spirit Award, but that's proper indie. And although she was up against Demi Moore, she was never going to lose that. That was that's the one she
And
was going to.
I would argue this is not traditional horror. This is not a horror movie. Yes, there's horror. It's horror adjacent, but
Mm.
I didn't go into this nor come out of the substance thinking I just watched a horror movie. I
Well,
know
it's
it has
not.
the moniker as a
Mm,
body horror movie,
yes.
but it's not the traditional horror movie where you're thinking, oh, the Academy doesn't like horror. That's not the horror that this movie is.
I mean, yeah, it's not a scary movie. It's not an unsettling movie. It's kind of gross, but it's gross in a fun way. It's kind of like a
Yeah.
custard pie fight almost. It's like Sam Raimi kind of horror movie. It's just like
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
it's a lot of Peter Jackson used to make movies like this back in New Zealand before he made Lord of the Rings. I really thought, okay, if Mikey Madison won SAG, I would vote Mikey Madison, or I would be rooting for Mikey Madison. I think that would have been enough. If she got BAFTA
Yeah.
and SAG, that's like a lot of the Academy voters
Mhm.
together, right? That she didn't. Demi Moore's got SAG now, so for me that means that the momentum is with Demi Moore. I think the narrative, I think the Academy as a body love the narrative.
Mhm.
And even if the horror, the blood is too much for them, I think Demi Moore has done enough to weather the storm and to rise above it, quite literally. And the idea of giving a 62-year-old veteran of the industry, a crowning achievement. And she's been around and she's been such a sort of positive uh, vocal force for
Yeah.
good kind of in the industry for so long. You can't look back at her career and go, look at all these amazing performances she's done. Awards worthy for you can't really do that. But she's been in all these fantastic movies. She's
Absolutely.
she's
She was
been
in the 90s, she was a darling in the 90s. I mean, she's a few
right.
good men, one of my top 10 favorite movies ever. I mean, and to me, I have a soft spot in my heart for St. Elmo's Fire. I mean, that's the first movie she really came of age in.
Yep.
Her and Rob Lowe having that scene together. I mean, she's a little bit older. All that group was a little older than me, but they were kind of my generation. That was me, the Brat Pack up there. And so
Hmm.
watching this Brat Packer win the Academy Award, I'm in Demi's corner.
I mean, I love Mikey Madison, and she absolutely is that movie. She is everything that
Mhm.
makes that movie good is because of Mikey Madison. But I think when it comes to the Oscar, I think similarly with what we're saying about Chalamet, she is a bit too young.
Mhm.
She hasn't really paid her dues yet. I think, yes, you can say that the nomination is the prize, but more than that, she's now a superstar.
Mhm.
She will go on to great things from this and be around for a long, long time as long as she wants to be. The world knows who Mikey Madison is. This time last year, I didn't know her name.
You know what's interesting?
I had seen her in one or two things, but I did not know who she was.
Mhm. You know what's interesting though? You brought up how the Academy doesn't like to go with horror or anything like that. But if you look at Honora, I mean, I think we're a little desensitized to it, but this is darn
Yeah.
near a soft-core porn movie. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to get to that when we talk about Best Picture. Um,
okay, yeah, because I was thinking that this movie's pretty. I mean, Mikey Madison spends a lot of time with her clothes off, and granted, we
but then
see
so
Demi
does
Moore
so
of
does
it
Demi
too.
Moore.
Yeah, yeah, it's
And I think
true.
when it's in a performance, that's when they say, "Oh, it's so brave. Oh, she's so brave." That's always when someone says that a female performance is brave, you know what it means if she gets her clothes off and she doesn't look amazing, you
Mhm.
know,
Yeah,
or she's just a bit older.
yeah,
Uh,
older in Demi's
yeah,
case.
is what it is. I mean, I think Demi Moore still does look amazing.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
you don't really need the caveat of for a woman in her 60s. So that's great. So we're in agreement. We're
yeah.
going for Demi
Demi,
Moore.
yeah, okay.
Okay. So
Uh, Director?
best director. We got Sean Baker, Brady Corbet, Coralie Farja, James Mangold, and Jacques Audiard.
I'm gonna go with the Brutalist. I think just what he did with taking a 3.5 hour movie, putting an intermission in there. That we already talked about the cinematography, the way this is shot, film angles, characterization, story arc, dialogue. All these films, other than A Complete Unknown, and we might have mentioned this before, I think, where they're very experimental films. These are not middle of the fairway films. These are films that um, they experiment, they take chances, they take those big swings we talk a lot about. And it's nice to see, like, Conclave is not here. Conclave
Mm,
is a, mainstream, middle of the fairway movie, and I don't mean that disparagingly, but it's not really experimental. It's what you would come to expect of an Academy Award winning or nominated film. Whereas all five of these directed films are different. I would say the odd man out would be A Complete Unknown.
mm. Yeah, I mean that's the one that feels like a sort of traditional studio movie.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
you've got Dune Part Two, you've got Wicked, you've got Conclave feels like that one as well. And they're not here. With
Hmm.
the possible exception of A Complete Unknown, I totally agree with you. Emilia Perez, The Substance, The Brutalist, and Honora are all kind of like indie outliers, really,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is great to see.
Hmm.
So these are the fact that these are our five best director nominees this year. It means it's a great year for really interesting, risk-taking cinema. And I think
Hmm.
that's fantastic. And, I would love nothing more than to see Brady Corbet win that. I thought The Brutalist is fantastic. And coming into the season, I was like, they're going to, whatever Honora does, The Brutalist has got Best Director sewn up just because it is such a directed movie.
Hmm.
It's so much of that is just the autorial voice of the director. I mean, it just doesn't seem like that's where it's going. The
Hmm.
fact I think you can't ignore the fact that Honora has won the DGA, the PGA, the WGA. Brady Corbet did win. He won the BAFTA and he won the Golden Globe.
Hmm.
So it was kind of a little bit sort of neck and neck. But I think that Sean Baker, the speeches he's given, it makes a very big difference. But the speeches that he's given about independent filmmaking and independent filmmakers and how they have to retain their autonomy and set the price where they want, the price point where they
Hmm.
want it, and the be paid what they're worth and all the rest of it. And I think he's just a little bit more developed and a little bit more advanced down that
Yeah.
road than Brady Corbet. Brady Corbet is still very new. A lot of people hadn't really heard of him. He'd only made two other films, and although his previous movie had Natalie Portman in it, Vox Lux, and I did see it, and it was quite interesting. He's not really, I think, known enough, and the director price does tend to, I think, most of the time be to someone who's a little bit more established. So I think just with the momentum of the season, Sean Baker has come out on top here. And so I think the
Yeah.
smart bet at this stage is Sean Baker. And I love him and I love his movies. I don't want him to be in my mind
Hmm.
as like the bad guy because
Yeah.
I love his stuff. And so
Yeah.
I'm happy to see him win it. Obviously I love Honora and I think that's where he's going to go. And I think that's the real strength of the movie is just him as a director and
Hmm.
Mikey Madsen. But I think Sean Baker's got it.
Yeah. Best Picture. Here we go.
All right. So the 10 nominees we have Anora, Conclave, The Brutalist, A Complete Unknown, Wicked, Amelia Perez, The Substance, I'm Still Here, Dune Part 2, and Nickel Boys.
I'm going with the convention that says because of the way the voting goes with what do they call it?
A
Uh,
preferential ballot.
Preferential ballot. Thank you. Um, I think, although Conclave is my favorite movie of the year, I think for a lot of people it was their second, possibly third favorite movie of the year. And so I think Conclave is going to get enough seconds and thirds in addition to its firsts that it's going to take it home because I think by and large people love that movie. It's in everybody's top three,
Yeah,
but the other two vary widely with other people, and that's why I'm going with Conclave.
right. Yeah, I think that's incredibly smart, sensible way of looking at it. Um, Anora was my favorite film of the year. And I think coming into the season, I was like, well, it doesn't have a shot at Best Picture because of all the things that you
Hmm.
mentioned earlier. Is that it's about sex and it's about sex
Hmm.
workers and there is a lot of nudity in it and sex in it and the Academy, although it's changing and it's mixing up its membership a lot in recent years, it is still old and stuffy and conservative at times. I think you can just work on this backwards kind of thing. Uh, it's not going to be Nickel Boys. It's not going to be Dune. It's not going to be I'm Still Here. It's not going to be Emilia Perez. So you're already the substance for Best Picture not going to happen.
No.
The fact that it got nominated is great. It's not going to happen. So so you've got a complete unknown. If it picked up a bit more love along the
Hmm.
way, I could see people going for it on the
Yeah.
preferential ballot. The same goes for the Brutalist. I think that's polarizing. I think for enough people, the Brutalist, as fantastic as it is, and as much as everybody loves it, who's seen it, there'll be a significant proportion of people who just haven't watched it because
Yeah.
it's 3.5 hours long. They get sent screeners or whatever, or they get invited to a screening, and then it's like, oh, I can't be bothered. I know it's good, and I'll give Adrian Brody a vote, but I just can't be bothered. And I sadly, I think that's true. Wicked and Conclave, however, are those movies that everybody likes, and I think those are the movies that are going to be sort of definitely top four on everybody or top five on everybody's ballot, particularly Conclave. I think I remember kind of thinking very early on in this season, yeah, that Conclave could pull a spotlight. Where
Hmm.
it'll be some people's number one. It won't be that many people's number one, but it'll be in everybody's top three, as you said.
Yeah.
And then you look, and it wins best film at BAFTA, and it wins best ensemble at SAG this morning. That's pretty smart. But then you look at Anora. It's got the PGA, the DGA, the WGA. It won Best Film at Critics' Choice. It won Best Casting at BAFTA. I think it's got enough. It's going to be really close. And I think voting for Conclave is incredibly smart. And I may well have egg on my face come Oscars morning because of all those things. But I've got to go with Anora. It's so
Hmm.
close, and it was my favorite film of
That's,
the year.
yeah.
So I think it's
Yeah.
kind of great because we're both ultimately rooting for our favorite
Our
films
favorite
of the
films of the year.
year.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think at this stage, we're so close. I can't give
I
up
could
on
certainly
Anora
see it.
now.
Yeah, no, I could certainly see it going to Honora, for sure. If it wins, I will not be shocked.
Mm.
I'm just playing a certain strategy and we're going to see if it works. And I'm playing it because it is my favorite movie.
Yeah, no, and I think that's great. I think it's good that we come out with a few notable little disagreements, so that we're not all just rooting for the same thing come Oscar
Yeah.
morning,
Yeah.
and we'll have something to talk about.
Well, that's what James and I think about this year's Oscars. But what say you? It's only a few more days until we all find out and this all becomes moot. And then we'll look forward to 2026.
Yeah, then it'll be a case of like, ha, you stupid. It was always going to be Wicked. Or Amelia Perez just be like, see, you can't get 13 nominations and then not win. And we're all like, okay, no one cares about old racist tweets anymore. But yeah, let us know, who are you rooting for? Particularly in those big categories, best picture, best director, best actor, best actress.
Until next episode. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, I got to go to bed.
You ought to be in pictures. Oh, what a hit you would be. Your voice.